Hey guys, tonight we step into a city that gleams with water, stone, and fire. You stand in Tenochtitlan, the beating heart of the Aztec world, where canals replace streets and temples rise like mountains of carved stone. The air carries the smell of maize, smoke, and something metallic you can't quite name. You look around, and it feels impossible that this city is floating. Causeways stretch across the lake like long arms pulling you toward the center. You hear the splash of paddles, the call of merchants, and the distant thud of drums that echo like a second heartbeat. It's beautiful, but also overwhelming. The scale dwarfs anything you imagined. Even if you've been in a big modern city, this feels more alive, more compressed, more demanding. And here's the thing, you wouldn't last a day. You'd be noticed instantly, your clothes wrong, your accent strange, your hesitation dangerous. It's like walking into a place where everyone has memorized rules you never learned. Still, you take it in wide-eyed like a tourist who just realized the tour guide forgot them. The temples shimmer with fresh paint, vivid red and white, glowing in the last light of day. You swear you see the golden tips of the great temple catching fire from the sunset. Crowds move like tides around you. Vendors shout about fish, peppers, obsidian knives, and amaranth cakes. Children dart between adults, carrying baskets heavier than they are. Historians still debate the population of Tenochtitlan. Some say 200,000, others push it higher. But standing here, pressed between bodies and sound, it feels like a million souls around you. You try to breathe, but even the air tastes thick with energy. A canal boat drifts by, loaded with flowers so bright they look unreal. The scent of marigold hangs in the air, sharp and sweet. And you can't help but think it's almost too perfect, like a festival that never ends. But then you notice the watchful eyes. A noble with embroidered cloak glides past, attendants carrying torches around him. He doesn't glance your way, yet you feel smaller, as if judged and dismissed in the same moment. You remember that this isn't just beauty, it's order. And order here is enforced with rules sharper than obsidian blades. People who don't belong rarely last long. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The drums pulse again in the distance, steady as breath. The lake glitters under moonlight, broken only by torch reflections dancing in ripples. Your steps slow, your shoulders sink, and you're pulled deeper into the rhythm of this world. Already, you can feel the city holding you, like arms that are strong, heavy, and unrelenting. It is beautiful, yes, but it will not let you go easily. And so, your night begins. Eyes half closed, body tired, yet mind wide awake with wonder. The city breathes around you, and you try to match its pace. The sound of water against stone, the glow of fire against darkness, the heartbeat of drums carrying you towards sleep. Let yourself rest here. The city is too much to grasp in one glance, so let it wash over you. You're safe enough for now, even if only for this first night. You wake before dawn, not because you want to, but because the city insists. The sound of grinding stones echoes like a chorus of early alarms. Corn is being turned into masa, and the rhythm is relentless, steady, unavoidable. The mat beneath you is thin, woven reeds pressing patterns into your skin. You shift, stiff and sore, and realize you've slept in someone else's home. It is warm, crowded, and full of movement long before the sun has risen. A woman passes by carrying a clay pot of water, her bare feet whispering against the floor. Children rub their eyes, already expected to help with chores. There's no snooze button here, no choice but to rise with the first sound of the city. You try to sit up, hoping to blend in, but you know you don't. Your clothes are wrong, your gestures uncertain, your silence suspicious. Even in the half-dark, you feel eyes on you. Curious, cautious, calculating. The smell of smoke fills the room as a fire sparks to life. Maize dough is pressed into thin circles, laid on a hot stone. The crackle of tortillas joins the grinding sound, a domestic orchestra announcing morning. It should feel cozy, but it doesn't. It feels like stepping into a machine where every gear knows its role, except you. And you? You're just extra weight slowing it down. Someone offers you a cup, steaming with a toll, maize gruel, thick and plain. You take a sip, try not to grimace at the earthy taste. It's filling, but heavy, sticking to your tongue like wet sand. There's no sugar here, no soft pastries, no coffee to jolt you awake. Just a hot, plain drink that expects you to endure. You swallow, smile awkwardly, and they nod politely. Historians still argue how much cacao commoners drank in daily life. Some say it was rare, reserved for the noble or for ceremony. Others think it appeared more often in households, but watered down, never sweet. What's clear is that you're not getting it. Your breakfast is as practical as it gets, and you're expected to eat in silence. Conversation, if it happens, is sparse, punctuated by the hiss of tortillas on stone. Outside, you hear roosters, though they're not the kind you're used to. Their calls mix with barking dogs, splashing paddles, and temple drums rolling like thunder. The city is awake, and so are you, whether you want to be or not. You step outside, stretching, but the air bites you with its chill. Mist curls off the canals, ghostly in silver. The smell of water plants and wood smoke clings to everything. You shiver, wishing for a sweater, but of course none exists. You pull your borrowed cloak tighter, its fibers rough against your skin. Itchy, uncomfortable, and probably dyed in a way that stains your arms. A boy passes carrying a basket almost his size, filled with chiles and beans. He doesn't look at you twice. You realize that even children here know more about survival than you do. The house behind you hums with life again, grinding, cooking, quiet words exchanged. Everyone knows their part in this symphony, and you're still fumbling at the door. It's humbling, maybe even humiliating. You take a deep breath, hoping to steady yourself. The day has only just begun, and already it feels like too much. Still, there's a strange peace in letting the city set the tempo. The mist softens the edges of the world. The grinding stones fade into a gentle backdrop, and your tired body, though foreign here, begins to loosen. For now, you let yourself stand still. Your breath matches the morning sounds, and your eyelids grow heavier, as if the city itself whispers, "Rest again." You follow the flow of footsteps, carried toward the marketplace of Tlatelolco. It is still morning, yet the square already roars like a living creature. The noise strikes you before the sight. Hundreds of voices layered over drums, calls, and laughter. When you finally step inside, the scale overwhelms you. Rows upon rows of stalls stretch further than you can count. It feels like a modern shopping mall, except everything is louder, brighter, sharper. You smell roasted maize, fresh fish, honey, and burning incense all at once. The mixture makes your stomach turn and growl at the same time. It's chaos, but it's organized chaos. Everyone seems to know where to stand, how to shout, when to move. A woman holds up a rabbit by its ears, offering it for barter. Nearby, a man shouts the virtues of obsidian blades, each one gleaming black like frozen smoke. Children run with baskets of tomatoes, dodging legs with terrifying precision. You pause by a stall stacked with cacao beans. Here, they're not just food, but currency. A handful can buy you a cloak, a meal, even someone's time. You reach for your pocket, then stop. You don't have cacao, and even if you did, you wouldn't know the going rate. Historians still debate how much oversight the market officials truly had. Some argue the judges, perched high on their platforms, kept perfect order. Others suggest bribes and negotiations shaped the flow far more than laws did. What you see are sharp eyes. Men sit under shaded awnings, watching, noting, judging every trade. You wonder if they already spotted your hesitation, your clumsy stares, your foreignness. A man selling chilies calls out to you, voice insistent, almost playful. You shake your head, embarrassed, and he laughs, not cruelly, just knowingly. You are the newcomer, and here, that makes you obvious prey. A group of women huddle around dyed cotton cloth, patterns bright and geometric. Their hands brush the fabric, their voices low but quick. You can't help but stare at the red and turquoise threads, more vivid than anything you've seen back home. The air thickens with smells again, salt fish from the coast, roasted dog meat, herbs tied in bundles. Your stomach flips at one scent, steadies at another. It's a roller coaster without rails, just smells pulling you up and down. Someone bumps your shoulder hard. You mumble a quick apology, but they don't slow down. The flow of bodies is constant, like water rushing through a canal, and you are just debris in its path. You think of your modern grocery stores, neat aisles with fluorescent lights. Here, there are no neat lines, only energy. The sun itself feels brighter, bouncing off polished obsidian, making your eyes sting. A man lifts a turtle from a basket, its shell painted with red streaks. Another cracks open gourds filled with honey, bees buzzing angrily around his arms. Everywhere you look, there's movement, transaction, life pressing forward. And yet, there is rhythm. The clink of clay pots, the rise and fall of voices, the steady heartbeat of drums from somewhere deep inside the city. You try to take a breath, but the air is crowded too, thick with spice, dust, sweat, and flowers woven into garlands. You cough, and someone shoots you a sharp glance. Your head swims, overstimulated, overexposed. You want to run, but you know you wouldn't find the way back. And maybe, just maybe, part of you doesn't want to, because for all its demands, the marketplace is alive. And if you let it, it might carry you too, just another face in the endless tide. For now, you let your shoulders drop. You let the noise blur into one gentle hum. And slowly, you begin to sway with it, like a boat rocked to sleep. The sun climbs higher, and the market noise fades behind you. Your feet ache, your stomach rumbles again, and you find yourself ushered back into a small household courtyard. It's time for the morning meal, and everyone seems to know the routine but you. A bowl of steaming maize gruel, a toll, is placed in front of you. It's thick, pale, and carries the faint scent of roasted corn. You lift it carefully, try not to spill, and take a cautious sip. The taste is earthy, almost bland, with a texture somewhere between soup and paste. It fills your mouth heavily, clinging to your tongue like it doesn't want to let go. This is breakfast, reliable and sustaining, but not exactly comforting. A few tortillas appear beside it, hot from the stone. You reach for one, fumbling slightly, and a woman across the mat stifles a laugh. You folded it wrong, too clumsy, too obvious. Historians point out that Aztec meals were surprisingly repetitive. Maize, beans, squash, again and again, every day, with only small variations. Spice came from chilies, but meat was rare for common households. You're grateful for the warmth, but your stomach whispers for something sweet, something familiar. There is no sugar here, no butter, no morning coffee to jolt you awake. Only what the earth and water give, transformed by fire and patience. A boy dips his tortilla into a chili sauce, red and glistening. He pops it into his mouth, unfazed by the sting you can smell across the room. You hesitate, then try a pinch. The fire explodes across your tongue, and you cough until your eyes water. The family chuckles, not cruelly, but knowingly. You are the outsider again, reminded with every bite that you don't belong. Still, you chew and swallow, pretending you enjoy it, because what else can you do? The room hums with quiet conversation. A woman scolds a child softly. Someone hums a tune while grinding more maize. It's domestic, ordinary, yet carried out with a discipline that makes you feel lazy by comparison. You think about modern breakfasts, pancakes, cereal, a quick croissant on the go. Here, the meal isn't about indulgence or choice. It's about fuel, rhythm, the continuation of a day that doesn't bend for comfort. Outside, you hear more drums, slower this time, as if the temples themselves are stretching awake. The sound seeps through the walls like a reminder. This meal isn't just food, it's ritual. Every grain of maize is sacred, tied to gods who demand respect. You finish your bowl, slower than the others, and set it aside. The heaviness in your stomach anchors you, but not unpleasantly. It's as if the city has placed its weight inside you, a claim you cannot shake. You lean back slightly, eyes on the courtyard's open sky. Clouds drift, pale against the blue, while smoke curls upward from the fire. The air is dry, tinged with ash and chilly. The others rise quickly, clearing bowls, stacking mats, preparing for the next task. There's no lingering, no pause to savor. The meal ends as briskly as it began, swallowed by the momentum of duty. You're left sitting still for a moment too long. Already the rhythm has moved past you, and you realize breakfast here isn't the start of the day. It's just one cog in the endless turning wheel. You step outside, following the family into the narrow street. The air feels sharper now, brighter, filled with sounds of orders being barked and tasks being checked. Everywhere you look, there's an invisible web of rules pulling people into place. A man walks by with his cloak wrapped tightly. It is not just for warmth, it signals his status. One wrong thread, one forbidden color, and punishment could follow. You notice a woman glance at your borrowed cloak. Her eyes linger, not with kindness, but with suspicion. It's a reminder that even fabric here tells on you. Historians still discuss how severe the Aztec laws truly were. Some argue the judges punished swiftly, with no mercy. Others suggest community pressure did much of the work before officials ever stepped in. Either way, the pressure is real. You sense it in the silence of children when elders pass. You feel it in the way no one dares loiter without purpose. A man drops a basket of beans by mistake. The beans scatter across the ground, rolling into puddles. Instantly, his face tightens in fear, as if a simple accident could ruin him. Two guards walk past, carrying clubs and obsidian blades. Their eyes sweep the street, sharp and indifferent. They do not stop, but the air chills after they pass. You remember jaywalking back home, laughing at small rules. Here, stepping out of line isn't a joke. It's survival. A boy whispers something too loudly, and his mother snaps at him. Her hand grips his shoulder firmly, pressing him down until he bows his head. You realize this isn't just discipline. It's training for a lifetime under watch. The streets themselves feel like veins of order. Each canal, each path, each stall in the market aligned to an unseen map. Even the temples rise with symmetry, as if carved by rules instead of hands. You hear a story about theft whispered nearby. A man caught stealing was shaved bald and paraded as a warning. Others say worse followed, slavery, mutilation, even death. And you know instantly you wouldn't make it here. Not with your habits of late-night snacks, of bending rules, of slipping past curfews. Here, those small rebellions would end you quickly. Still, the city glitters in the morning sun. Water in the canals glows silver. Birds dart across the sky. It's beautiful, but beauty here is edged with threat. The people move forward, calm, collected, precise. Their steps are guided by law, by ritual, by fear. And if you stand too long, you risk being pulled into that same rigid rhythm. You adjust your cloak again, suddenly self-conscious. The threads itch, the fabric scratches, but mostly it exposes you. You hope no one notices the way you hold it wrong, the way you don't belong. You learn quickly that clothing here is not decoration. It is a language stitched with rank, duty, and permission. Every thread says who you are, and your borrowed cloak says, no idea. You try to smooth the fabric, as if courtesy could change class. It doesn't. The weave remains stubborn, rough as a whisper that doesn't like you. Men pass in capes fastened just so, hems cut at precise lengths. Women glide in huples with patterns that signal lineage and neighborhood. You feel like the only one wearing subtitles in the wrong language. A vendor pauses, looking at the cut of your tunic. She notes the fiber, the dye, the clumsy knot near your shoulder. Her smile is polite, but her eyes say, "Interesting problem." Historians widely agree that cotton marked privilege. Commoners relied on maguey fiber, heavy and coarse. Cotton against the skin announced access, tribute, and status. You touch your sleeve and wonder if it betrays you. The color isn't right, too loud for someone unimportant. Even your sandals squeak like they're confessing. A boy runs by trailing a strip of cloth like a flag. His mother snatches it, folds it neatly, and tucks it away. Nothing flutters here without permission. You pass a stall stacked with dyed skeins. Cochineal red, indigo blue, smoky black. The red glows like embers frozen at their brightest moment. You lean closer and catch a hint of earth and sun-baked wood. A kindly woman explains that the red comes from tiny insects on cactus. You blink at the word insects, your stomach doing a small backflip. She laughs and says it's beautiful blood you don't have to spill. A guard strolls by, cloak simple yet crisp, hair oiled and tied. He does not look at you, but your posture straightens anyway. Authority here is tailored, and you are badly hemmed. You remember fashion fads back home. Ripped jeans, logo tees, ironic socks. Here, irony could be illegal. You decide your socks are safer unseen. A craftsman unfurls a cloak embroidered with jade-colored geometric steps. It's not real jade, but it might as well be. The pattern climbs the fabric like a temple front viewed from a dream. Historians still debate how strictly sumptuary rules were enforced. Some say local officials looked the other way for minor slips. Others insist mistakes were fined, shaved, or paraded for shame. Your fingers brush a bolt of cotton smooth as water. The vendor's price is measured in cacao, beans you don't have. You pretend you're just looking, a phrase that translates poorly in cacao. A girl kneels to adjust her mother's hem, quick and precise. The mother's belt is woven with small diamonds that point like compass needles. Together, they become a map you don't know how to read. You try to tie your cloak the way you saw a noble do it. The knot rebels and droops like a tired flower. Somewhere, a fashion god's eyes. A man with painted ears pools walks past, skin dusted with fragrant copal. His cloak is short, deliberately so, showing legs trained by causeways and duty. Your own cloak hangs like a curtain hiding a messy room. Well-known fact. Nobles could wear feathered capes, brilliant with quetzal plumes. You imagine a cape that moves like a living garden. Then you imagine try not to trip over it on stairs. Curiosity sidles up, a bundle of hair cords, carefully braided, scented with herbs. The vendor says they're for tying garments and for vows. You wonder what promise is worth wearing every day. You adjust your belt and feel the fabric bite back. The fibers whisper against your skin like reeds by the canal. Every step you take is a small negotiation. A woman studies your shoulders, then offers a woven sash. She wraps it lightly, gives a tug, and the cloak finally sits. You breathe as if someone tuned an instrument that was always sharp. You offer thanks in a soft voice. Her eyes warm, then cool, measuring whether you learned anything. You learned this. Help here has a shape, and you must fit it. Two boys swagger by with painted faces for dance practice. One of them winks with theatrical bravado. You realize even rehearsal has a dress code. A priest descends temple steps, tunic stark, edges clean as cut stone. The crowd's gaze folds toward him like grass to wind. Your cloak suddenly feels loud, even when it says nothing. You recall the joke about dress for the job you want. Here, the joke dresses you. The job it wants is survival, and it requires the correct hemline. On a wall hangs a tapestry showing rows of tribute garments. Each square is a promise already collected. You can almost hear the rustle of entire provinces paying in cloth. Historians still argue how much color signaled rank versus occasion. Some point to regional patterns that outranked hue. Others insist the palette itself could promote or demote the wearer. You move to shade and try a different knot. It works for one proud heartbeat, then slumps like last night's tortilla. Fine. You declare it avant-garde and pray no one speaks French. A vendor demonstrates how to fold a cloak corner under the belt. The motion is small, neat, efficient, an origami of survival. You copy it twice before it behaves. Your shoulders relax as the fabric finally hangs right. At last, your silhouette stops shouting. Now it only whispers, and whispers are safer. A child touches your sleeve, curious but not unkind. Her fingers test the weave like reading lines on your palm. She decides you're not dangerous, only strange. Well-known fact, elite garments could be tributes from conquered towns. Wearing one meant history draped on your shoulders. You picture a cape that weighs as much as memory. Curiosity again, a tiny bone pin carved like a maize sprout. The vendor says it keeps collars aligned and luck awake. You buy nothing, but the idea sticks at your throat like a seed. You pass a row of capes with cloud patterns, zigzags like rain on lake water. The designs feel like weather forecasts sewn by patient hands. If you wore one, perhaps the sky would believe you. A man compliments your improved, not with a nod. It's the smallest upgrade on the city's invisible scale. You glow as if promoted from walking problem to minor inconvenience. Historians still debate whether sandals with raised soles signified rank or practicality. Some say height meant honor and clean heels. Others say it meant better grip on wet causeways, nothing more. You glance at your feet, grateful they at least pretend to cooperate. Your steps, now, make quieter conversations with the ground. The cloak follows, finally convinced you belong to gravity. You catch a reflection in canal water, a figure almost aligned with the street. Not noble, not native, not anything official, but less wrong than this morning. 3 small jokes drift through your head and refuse to leave. 1. Your cloak remains fluent in falling off. 2. Your nod is an optimist with stage fright. 3. Your sandals think they're rehearsal directors. You pass the cochineal stall again and nod like an old friend. The vendor grins, offering you a fingertip of red dust. You wave it off, imagining your cloak shouting in crimson. By late morning, the city reads you more gently. You are still foreign, but less noisy about it. Cloth has taught you to lower your volume. You understand that dress here is not a costume. It is a contract signed in fiber and dye. You sign the margins, carefully, with borrowed thread. When the wind comes off the lake, your cloak lifts and settles. It moves like a flag that wants to be a shoreline. You let it, and you walk. You're led back into the courtyard before the sun reaches its boldest voice. Someone has swept the hard earth into perfect spirals. A small altar waits against the wall, quiet as a held breath. Clay figures stand there, humble and watchful. Bundles of dried herbs lie beside bowls of water. A thin thread of incense, smoke already curls like a question. No one explains the rules. You are expected to know, the way fish are expected to know water. You imitate the slow, careful movements of the household and hope the gods enjoy improv. A woman crushes resin in a small stone cup. Copal, she says with her eyes, not her lips. The scent blooms as she feeds it to a waiting ember. The smoke does not climb in a hurry. It rises like a story that prefers patience. Your shoulders find that tempo without permission. Well-known fact, the Aztecs burned copal to honor the gods and sanctify space. The resin was a bridge, carrying prayers into a sky busy with listening. You watch the smoke and feel the courtyard widen. A little boy unrolls painted paper strips. He places them on the altar as if setting out a path. The colors look like doors that are already open. You offer a flower because that seems safe. Your fingers tremble and a petal falls early. A woman catches it midair, smiles, and lets it join the others with ceremony. Someone rings a small bell. Its chime is quick, bright, and decisive. The sound lands in your chest like a tiny coin. You kneel, and the mat crackles softly under your knees. A bowl of water passes, cool and testing. You touch your forehead, your lips, your heart, as the family does. Historians still debate whether most households addressed a small set of deities or a broad rotating cast. Some argue families favored maize and rain gods. Others see evidence of local patron spirits woven into daily life. What you see is devotion that fits perfectly inside a home. A man speaks names you recognize and names you don't. Tlaloc for rain. Chickamcodal for maize. Huitzilopochtli only in a murmur, as if fire should be invited carefully. You repeat nothing, afraid of getting a syllable wrong. You hold the flower like a promise you can't fully translate. The smoke smooths the air until even worry lies down. A wooden flute begins, thin and steady. Its notes seem to turn the courtyard light into threads. You feel them brush your cheeks, soft as moth wings. Curiosity tiptoes in. A small figure made of amaranth dough rests on a plate. It smells faintly sweet and earthy, like bread remembering a garden. You wonder who it represents and what it expects of you. A bowl of salt sits beside a bowl of ground chili. You pretend not to make eye contact with the chili. It remembers you from breakfast and smirks. They gesture for you to touch the copal bowl lightly. The heat licks your fingertips without biting. You lift your hand and find it scented with something older than fear. Someone ties a thin cotton cord around your wrist. The knot is small, neat, and sure of itself. Unlike the cloak knot you've been negotiating with all morning, this one cooperates at once. A chicken clucks somewhere beyond the wall, oblivious to theology. A dog yawns like a priest between services. Even ordinary sounds feel invited, not intrusive. The man places a few kernels of maize in your palm. He nods toward the altar. You offer them gently, as if you're feeding the day itself. Well-known fact. Maize was life at the center of this world. Offering kernels acknowledged debt to the gods and to the fields. You feel the weight of that gratitude on something as small as your hand. A hush gathers, not absolute but attentive. It is the kind of silence that makes words unnecessary. You breathe in time with the bell that does not ring. Historians still debate how often commoners performed personal bloodletting. Some argue it was routine devotion. Others place it on specific feast days. In this courtyard, the emphasis is gentleness, not spectacle. A woman touches her finger to the incense, smoke, and then to your brow. The warmth is minute, precise, and strangely reassuring. You are seen, and the seeing is kind. 3 small jokes slide through your thoughts and make room for themselves. 1. Your cloak knot, now jealous, pouts through the ceremony. 2. The chili bowl keeps trying to maintain eye contact. 3. The incense smoke is a far better choreographer than you will ever be. You help arrange paper flags along the altar's edge. They flutter like shy fish learning to leap. A breeze carries the copal scent toward the canal and back again. A girl taps a drum the size of a large melon. Her beat is patient, gentle, and certain of its destination. Your heart steps in behind it, grateful for the escort. The dough figure returns, and a small piece is offered to each person. You hesitate, then taste it. It is sweet in a quiet way, like a memory brought out carefully. Curiosity blinks again. A tiny clay whistle shaped like a bird sits near the altar. The boy lifts it and lets a single note fly. It sounds exactly like a real bird deciding it approves. A prayer shifts into a chant, low and even. Your lips don't know the words, but your breath knows the rhythm. You borrow that rhythm without guilt. Someone sprinkles water over the ground, dotting the dust with small constellations. The spots darken, then vanish, as if the earth swallowed stars. You feel the courtyard tilt closer, like a listener leaning in. A woman offers you a small braid of herbs. She gestures to rub it between your hands. The scent opens green doors in your head you didn't know you had. Well-known fact. Offerings could include flowers, food, paper, copal, and careful words. The grandeur of the great temple had its echo in 100 small courtyards. You understand how an empire could be woven from daily threads. Historians still debate whether household altars mirrored state cults or held older, local shapes. Some see continuity, others find stubborn regional textures. All you know is that this altar feels both intimate and infinite. A pause arrives, respectful and complete. You lower your gaze and discover you're not performing anymore. You're participating, which is both easier and harder. Someone touches your wrist cord and tugs it once, softly. The knot feels like a tiny bell you carry. You imagine it ringing each time you forget how to stand still. The flute fades, and the little drum goes quiet. The incense thins until it becomes the air again. No one claps, because the ceremony never asked for applause. 3 more jokes line up like friendly neighbors. 1. The dog has found religion in a patch of sun. 2. Your sandals creak with piety whenever you shift. 3. Your flower, traitor, has chosen the altar over you with suspicious enthusiasm. You help tidy the space, returning bowls and folding cloths. The paper flags rest as if they too have bones. Order gently retakes the courtyard. A woman hands you a small cup of water flavored with herbs. It tastes like cool shade. You swallow and feel the day accept your application for membership provisional. A final bell strikes once, crisp and exact. The courtyard exhales. People rise with calm that looks practiced and real. You stand last, not by choice but by awe. Your breath arrives on schedule, softer than before. Your hands remember the scent of resin, even when you lower them. The family steps back into the current of chores. You follow, newly threaded to their pattern. The city waits, and the gods, apparently, approve your first draft. Work arrives without ceremony. A water jar waits at the threshold like a polite command. You lift it, and the clay answers with weight and a faint coolness. Your first path is to the canal. Mist lingers low, turning reed tips into silver. You breathe, brace, and step onto the firmed mud like a beginner on stage. The jar drinks as you lower it. The water takes its time, a steady glug like the city clearing its throat. You lift again, surprised by how quiet true heaviness can be. A boy passes with 2 jars, one on each hip. He is smaller than your doubts and stronger than your pride. He neither looks at you nor spills a drop. Well-known fact. Chinampas, raised fields on the lake, fed this city with astonishing yields. Dredged mud and plant matter built garden islands that turned water into farmland. Every bucket you carry is one thread in that broader weave. You walk carefully, shoulders listening for the slosh. A single misstep, and the jar will correct your posture the hard way. Your sandals whisper bargains with the damp ground. Back at the courtyard, you pour into a storage jar. The water's surface settles, a small moon finding itself. No one applauds. Another jar appears. Grinding maize follows because of course it does. A metate rests on the floor, stone on stone, patient and inevitable. You kneel, and your knees announce their objections like union reps. The kernels feel dry and stubborn under your palms. You add water, press, and draw the mano forward in slow arcs. The sound is low, granular, like a soft rain learning language. Your shoulders speak up next, tight, surprised, then slowly resigned. This rhythm is not violent, only relentless. It teaches you that endurance is often quieter than effort. Curiosity arrives in the form of a tiny carved scoop. A girl uses it to flick a precise splash of water onto the masa. The dough brightens, as if it understood the compliment. Someone adjusts your hand angle without a word. You were pushing too hard, mistaking force for skill. Now, the movement glides, seen first by the dough before you feel it. Historians still debate whether households specialized tasks or rotated them evenly. Some see evidence of expert grinders. Others argue daily rotation learned through necessity. You suspect the answer is whoever does it well keeps doing it. A basket of chilies watches you from a respectful distance. You nod at it like to an old rival you now respect. It says nothing, which is merciful. You pause to lift your back and stretch. The metate does not care about your ergonomic needs. You return to the stone schedule because the stone has seniority. A woman shapes the fresh masa with practiced calm. Her hands move like a pair of small sails working with the wind. The tortillas hiss on the comal, breath meeting heat. 3 jokes tap on the door and let themselves in. 1. Your biceps have filed a formal complaint with HR. Huitzilopochtli Resources. 2. Your jar-carrying strategy is called Please Don't Notice I'm Wobbling. 3. Your metate technique is 70% prayer, 30% gravity. You're sent to fetch reeds from a nearby bank. They cut easily, bright and wet, small cylinders of future baskets. You bundle them with a cord that remembers every knot you don't. The path along the water opens to a view of Chinampus. Rectangles of green float, like pages laid out to dry. Workers pull weeds, stake beans, and talk in the practical poetry of tasks. A man on a canoe poles through a narrow channel. His boat carries cut flowers, yellow, orange, scarlet, like a traveling sunrise. His face is calm in that tidy way work grants the practiced. You load reeds and return, learning the art of walking as if you weren't carrying anything. The trick is small steps and surrender pride. You master one of those. Back in the courtyard, a bundle of firewood requests your attention. You become a delivery service for the hearth. Each trip is short, and each short trip is non-negotiable. Well-known fact, labor obligations extended beyond the household. Canal upkeep, temple service, military training. Even ordinary days carry duties wider than any one courtyard. Your micro-chores sketch the outline of macro order. Curiosity whistles from the corner, a clay whistle shaped like a fish. A boy hands it to you for a break you didn't ask for. You blow, and it sounds like a fish who has profound opinions about weather. The family shifts to weaving repairs. Warp strings hum with a quiet tension you feel in your teeth. You try a shuttle pass and embroider a knot you didn't mean to invent. A woman smiles with unthreatening pity. She undoes your contribution easily, the way a stream edits a leaf. Your job returns to water and weight. Safer, slower, honest. Your hands stained faintly green from reed sap. Your forearms carry a fine dusting of ground maize. Your breath works in a new meter, 4 counts forward, 4 counts back. Historians still debate the daily calorie load required for this work. Some estimates rely on tribute lists. Others look to excavated remains and tool wear. You stop debating when your stomach makes its own persuasive argument. The midday sun squares its shoulders and presses down. Shade shrinks, and you become acquainted with the precise aims of heat. You remember sunscreen, and then remember you don't have it, nor the crocodile manure of ancient Egypt. Different empire. Same sun with opinions. Water break. You cup your hands and drink from a ladle that fits mouths from 3 generations. The water tastes like clay and patience. 3 more jokes unpack their bedrolls. 1. Your sandals want a union. 2. Specializing in dramatic squeaks. 2. Your shadow left a complaint. Overused, underpaid. 3. Your biceps have rebranded themselves as seasonal workers. A neighbor calls for help patching a canal edge. You join a chain passing wet mud along. The mud is cool and unexpectedly dignified, considering its resume. You pack handfuls into a gap where water nibbles the bank. The canal blinks and calms, satisfied with the snack. Someone says good work in a tone that believes it. A small canoe needs steadying while sacks are shifted. You plant your feet and meet the boat's quivering logic. Balance is a conversation you hold with your ankles. Curiosity again, a floating mat of roots stitched dense under the Chinampa surface. A man lifts a corner to show you the living lattice. It looks like a net that learned how to grow itself. You carry basket after basket of squash blossoms. Their color is outrageous, like sunrise smug about its timing. You try not to bruise them with clumsy congratulations. The courtyard returns as a cool rectangle of shade. You set the blossoms down, and your shoulders forget how to be furniture. A dog passes judgment, then forgives you for existing. Well-known fact, tribute could arrive as maize, textiles, cacao, feathers, or labor itself. Work is a currency that spins you whether you agree or not. You begin to understand how tax can be a heartbeat. Historians still debate how strictly labor quotas were measured for households. Some point to local flexibility, others to meticulous tallies recorded by officials. In practice, your day is recorded in sore places that will have plenty to say tomorrow. Someone offers you a thin tamal with herbs. It is warm enough to be kind, simple enough to be honest. You eat without conversation, which is its own gratitude. The mate calls you back for one more round. Your hands return to the stone, and the stone remembers you. This time, the sound is steadier, which feels like a small permission. 3 last jokes wander in, dust on their feet. 1. Your posture has applied for permanent residency in slumped but hopeful. 2. The reed bundle tried to escape and only made it to mildly adjacent. 3. Your canoe balancing certificate reads, has not fallen in. Yet, the light softens at the courtyard's edges. Voices lower into the register of tasks completed enough. Tools lean where they can listen to their own echoes. You rinse your hands in a shallow bowl. The water clouds with work and then forgives you. Someone nods, approving your survival of the shift. Your back hums, your arms buzz, your legs rehearse sit, stand, repeat. The day has pressed its seal into your muscles. You feel stamped, cataloged, and, oddly, attached. No one praises you loudly, which is correct. The city is not impressed by a single jar, a single grind, a single patch of mud. It is impressed by repetition, and repetition is tomorrow's promise. You set the last jar down. The rim clicks the floor like a small bell, finishing the note. The courtyard breathes, and you match it without thinking. You're guided through a narrow lane that smells of chalk, clay, and morning smoke. The courtyard ahead is swept flat as paper. A drum taps twice, and a door curtain lifts like a sentence beginning. You step inside a school that is also a spine. Straight walls, straight lines, straight faces. Your shoulders reconsider slouching and file an apology. 2 paths open in your mind as the room settles. Kalmakak for nobles. Telpakali for commoners. You're not asked which one you prefer. Well-known fact. In the Aztec world, schooling reaches both boys and girls. Discipline belongs to everyone, like sunrise and maize. You try to look enthusiastic without promising anything you can't pronounce. A teacher raises a hand, and the room goes quiet by muscle memory. He has the voice of someone who can silence clay. He nods at your cloak knot, now behaving as if it's studied overnight. Lessons begin with breath and posture. You plant your feet and remember the canal's balancing act. The floor approves mostly. You repeat syllables that taste like stones smoothed by water. Names of gods, names of months, names of things that look simple until tested. Your tongue learns new corners in your mouth. A boy beside you holds a bundle of reeds. He will practice counting with cords and ties. You will practice not being the loudest mistake in the room. Historians still debate how separate the curricula really were. Some say Kalmakak bent toward priesthood and statecraft, while Telpakali drilled war and civic duty. Others see a great overlap, with discipline as the common alphabet. A woman moves between rows with a bowl of charcoal. She draws symbols on the floor that look like thoughts frozen mid-flight. You trace them with your finger, and they thaw into meaning. 3 jokes pass notes across your mind. 1. Your sandals squeak, present, every time attendance is implied. 2. Your cloak has declared itself valedictorian of barely acceptable. 3. Your reed tying technique is advanced in the specialty of decorative knots nobody asked for. You chant the calendar names in a cadence that feels like paddling. Rabbit, reed, flint, house. They stack in your throat like careful bricks. A small drum resumes, steady as a walking pace. The teacher moves you through steps that are half dance, half drill. Your feet learn the difference between rhythm and noise. Curiosity arrives, shaped like a basket of maguey spines. They are not for threat today, the teacher says with a patient glance. They are for writing, for music, for 100 precise interruptions of habit. You bend over a bark paper sheet and scratch a line that pretends to be a word. It looks more like a path a nervous ant would take. Still, it points somewhere, which is an upgrade over nowhere. Well-known fact. Students carried firewood to temples, swept courtyards, tended gardens. The chores are part of the learning, not a break from it. Your back agrees to remember. A chant shifts to a hymn that names the mountains like family. The room warms with breath and meaning. You realize a city can teach landscape the way water teaches stone. A basket of maize cobs sits at the front like a quiet sermon. The teacher speaks of debt to earth and sky. You feel your breakfast atoll turn into grammar. Your knees meet the floor for meditation that is not called meditation. It is called listening without moving. The skill is rarer than people admit. Historians still debate whether harsh punishments were daily reality or moral instruction told loud. Some sources describe chilly smoke for disobedience. Others frame it as cautionary theater. Today, the room needs no smoke to clarify attention. You practice lifting a small bundle as if it were heavier than pride. The teacher nods at your improved grip. The bundle does not clap, but it approves in weight. 3 more jokes shuffle to the front of your thoughts. 1. Your posture now speaks 3 languages: polite, repentant, and trying. 2. Your charcoal notes have filed for emancipation from your handwriting. 3. The floor and your feet are in couples counseling and making progress. A girl recites lineage with a confidence that could instruct rivers. Another tracks tribute items across a map drawn in dust. You listen and understand how memory becomes architecture. Well-known fact, boys at Telpakali train for war dances and tactics. Girls learn household arts as strategy, not ornament. Every roll turns into a rope that keeps the city tied to itself. You feel the tug and choose not to fall. The teacher hands you a hollow gourd rattle. Its sound is shy but precise. You count beats, then count breaths, then forget to divide them. A pause arrives, disciplined and kind. The room drinks water like it has been reminded to. You are handed a cup and treated as a temporary student rather than temporary trouble. The teacher tells a story of a hero who learned to be quiet before learning to be brave. It lands in your chest like a folded cloak that finally fits. You look at your knot, and it pretends not to stare back. Curiosity peeks from a clay figurine with painted eyes. It represents a day sign that likes quick minds and slow feet. You feel personally called in for a meeting. You sweep the floor with a brush made of stiff reeds. Dust spins up, dazzled, then settles as if remembering discipline. Your breath chooses a gentler tempo to match. Historians still debate how much mobility existed between the two schools. Some argue merit opened doors. Others insist birth guarded thresholds. In this room, the door is open and everyone is too busy to measure you. You practice stepping in and out of a square drawn on the ground. It sounds simple until your ankles begin writing their own poetry. The teacher smiles in a way that forgives, but does not forget. 3 last jokes arrive exactly on time. 1. Your gourd rattle thinks it's a Moroccan sabbatical. 2. Your charcoal-stained fingers look like they signed a treaty with shadows. 3. Your knees are auditioning for the role of ancient door hinges. Afternoon leans in through the doorway, bringing a slice of lake breeze. The papers flutter. The drum lowers its voice. Your eyes track floating dust lit like tiny lanterns. The session ends with a short prayer that doesn't need your words. It asks for steadiness, clarity, and the kind of strength that doesn't shout. You nod, because nodding is a language you finally speak well. Outside, children surge toward errands as if released by a tide. You follow more slowly, carrying a neat stack of failures that already feel like practice. The courtyard greets you with the smell of copal remembering the morning. You look back at the school door, fabric curtain resting once more. Inside, the room is resetting for the next lesson, the next spine. You adjust your cloak and keep the rhythm you borrowed. Nothing dramatic changed, and everything did. Your steps land more squarely. Your breath counts without you. The path to the canal waits with the patience of water. You join it, letter by letter, beat by beat. Not fluent yet, but less foreign than you were at dawn. The afternoon folds you toward a courtyard that belongs to rhythm. Drums wait in the shade like sleeping animals. Faces turn to you with the calm of people who already know the steps. A teacher places a rattle in your hand. It feels light, trusted, and slightly judgmental. You nod to it, as if greeting a small, opinionated bird. The first drum speaks. A deep huettle calls the ground to attention. Your feet listen before your ears do. You move to a line that is not painted, but understood. Bodies stacked shoulder to shoulder, space measured in breaths. You find your place by not claiming it too loudly. Well-known fact. Aztec ceremonies pulsed with drums like huetl and tepanazli. Would sang when struck, voices braided into cadence. The city's heart learned to beat in composite time. Arms rise, elbows soft, wrists loose as reeds. A second drum answers with a wooden whisper. The tepanazli's tongue hums through your ribs. The teacher's hand cuts the air, clean and exact. You copy the angle and miss the intent. Your wrist confesses before your face does. A boy ties shell anklets around your calves. They clink with each step, small rainstorms you now carry. You walk and hear weather respond. Curiosity taps from the edge. A conch shell trumpet sleeps on a mat. Its mouth is smoothed by generations of breath. Someone will wake it when the dance wants sea wind. You practice a basic pattern. Step, place, turn, place. It looks trivial until your ankles file a petition. Your sandals remain neutral but suspicious. The teacher circles and the circle tightens. You feel eyes on your posture, not your face. Respect here begins at the heel. 3 jokes not politely and enter anyway. 1. Your rattle thinks it's management and keeps giving notes. 2. Your anklets have started a weather report nobody requested. 3. Your left foot schedules meetings your right foot can't attend. Hands lift, palms angle like small sails. You learn to let the fingers breathe at the edges. Soft doesn't mean weak, it means accurate. A girl leads the line into a gentle spiral. Turn, step, breathe, offer. Offer to the drum, to the air, to the space you occupy temporarily. Historians still debate how choreography spread. Textbook precision or guided improvisation. Some sources hint at strict tempo patterns. Others show local flavor woven into state rhythms. You discover that following can be its own technique. The tepanazli shifts to a crossbeat that feels like a question. Your shoulders answer in the wrong language. The teacher smiles the way a lake smiles at new swimmers. He taps your ankle lightly with a stick, correction, not punishment. He steps beside you and lets your body borrow the right angle. Everything becomes easier once pride is excused from rehearsal. Well-known fact. Communal dances, sometimes called mitote, braided celebration with devotion. Feet polish the ground into memory. You dance on echoes that already know your mistakes. The conch wakes and pours a long, curved note. It bends the air like heat does to distance. Every head tilts as if greeting a wind from far fields. A woman hands you paper streamers cut into careful shapes. You hold them like delicate birds, learning to trust your fingers. They flutter at the edge of your breath, pleased to be included. The group pivots as one body. Your pivot writes a footnote instead. You tuck back into the sentence before anyone reads aloud. 3 more jokes, bow dramatically. 1. Your rattle has unionized with the drum, percussive solidarity. 2. Your streamers think you're a gentle hurricane in training. 3. Your conch anticipation face looks like you smelled confusing soup. The teacher calls for a slower cycle. Arms draw arcs that taste like copal smoke. Knees soften until balance becomes a conversation. You feel the line behind you breathe as one. Exhale on the step. Inhale on the turn. The crowd's lungs decide the tempo and keep it generous. Curiosity returns wearing feathers. A dancer arrives in a cape trimmed with bright plumes. The feathers move as if the air were a friendly pond. You're not asked to wear the cape. This is correct. Feathers have standards. The teacher cues a sequence honoring rain. Fingers tap, forearms like drops finding leaves. Feet roll forward, a careful promise to soil and seed. Historians still debate how many participants were conscripted versus devoted. Was attendance a duty or a desire? The faces around you suggest both, which is how empires breathe. A boy in the front misses a step and grimaces. He corrects himself before the drum has to mention it. Even mistakes here learn the choreography. Well-known fact. Songs carried histories, lineages, and victories. Words rode rhythm until memory couldn't fall. You mouth syllables that feel older than your lungs. The teacher nods to you for a tiny solo, 2 steps, 1 turn. Your heart forgets its job for a second. Then your body remembers the school square and finds the corner. The anklets answer with soft rain. Your rattle approves with a modest breeze. You exit on time, and the fear gently loses interest. A pause arrives that is not silence. It's the space where listening changes sides. Drums rest. Feet do the talking. 3 jokes away from the shade and sip imaginary cacao. 1. Your left foot finally accepted the calendar. Is house today. 2. Your anklets filed a rainfall report. High chance of clatter with brief dignity. 3. Your streamers want a union pin. The conch calls again, deeper, calling the lake by an old name. You feel goosebumps rise like small soldiers. The teacher smiles because now your posture is listening. Curiosity points to a pair of butterfly-shaped ornaments. They tie above the ankles and flick with each step. Someone says they coax light to pay attention. A messenger arrives with a new drumhead, taut and pale. The old one receives a respectful farewell glance. You wonder how many ceremonies a skin remembers. Historian voices visit your mind, patient and precise. Some argue that certain dances train bodies for war. Others insist the training was for community, which sometimes looks the same. You move again, this time in pairs. Your partner is a woman whose balance could negotiate with wind. She sets the pace and forgives the future. You mirror, then echo, then finally align. Both of you carry a small smile that doesn't spill. The line becomes a river with polite banks. Well-known fact. Temple plazas could fill with dancers in repeating geometry. Patterns read from rooftops like writing for the gods. Down here, you read by touch and breath. Sweat finds your temples and considers staying. Your chest unlocks a door you hadn't used. Behind it, a smaller rhythm waits patiently to be noticed. A final sequence arrives, calm and unavoidable. The teacher lowers his hand, and the courtyard lowers its heart rate. Feet return to ordinary, which takes effort after ceremony. You untie the anklets with fingers that learn a new alphabet. They leave faint circles like delicate bracelets drawn by dust. Your calves hum an aftersong. The rattle returns to its mat. It looks less judgmental now. You bow to it anyway, because diplomacy with percussion seems wise. 3 last jokes take a bow too. 1. Your conch face has been promoted to sea breeze liaison. 2. Your feathers, still theoretical, nominated you for best non-feathered support. 3. Your rattle says you kept time, which is better than keeping excuses. The teacher touches your shoulder with the back of his fingers. Approval arrives wordless and sufficient. You store it where confidence earns interest slowly. Around you, streamers are folded, shells counted, drums covered. The courtyard exhales in tidy increments. You stand still until stillness trusts you. You leave carrying rhythm like a quiet passenger. It rides behind your sternum and does not complain. The city outside sounds less like noise and more like a score. Crossing the lane, you catch your reflection in the canal. A figure whose steps no longer argue with the ground. A face that understands why the drum does not need translation. The causeway wind lifts and sets your cloak. It keeps time with an echo only you can hear. You walk, and the day walks with you. The courtyard empties, and the air tilts darker with a sudden heaviness. A group gathers near the canal edge, their voices lower now, carrying a different kind of weight. Stories drift across the water, and you realize they aren't about chores or markets. They're about war. The flower wars, they say. Battles fought not for territory, but for captives, for offerings, for rhythm with the gods. Well-known fact. These ritualized conflicts filled temples with prisoners. Sacrifice was not an accident of conquest. It was part of the design. You feel the chill even as the sun presses hot against your skin. A boy your age speaks of training with pride. He has practiced with spears and shields since he could walk straight. His eyes gleam with excitement, not fear, as if battle is an honor already waiting. You wonder if you could lift a spear for more than a minute. Your shoulders remind you of grinding maize, and the answer is no. Even the reed bundle from earlier feels like distant training wheels. Historians still debate how much choice young men had. Some argue military service was nearly inevitable. Others suggest families negotiated paths toward priesthood, craft, or trade. What you hear is duty, spoken as casually as weather. A man leans forward, describing a campaign across the mountains. His scars draw the map for him. He laughs when someone asks about fear, as if the word doesn't quite exist here. Curiosity glimmers in a painted shield propped against the wall. Obsidian flakes edge its wooden frame, black teeth catching light like frozen sparks. You reach toward it, then stop, fingers curling back. A boy notices and hands you a blunt spear. It is heavier than pride and just as slippery. You grip it like someone pretending to know which end matters. He shows you the stance. 1 foot forward, knees bent, weight balanced. You copy, clumsy and crooked. Your spear trembles like a nervous reed in the wind. 3 jokes arrive, whispering loudly. 1. Your stance resembles, please don't let me spill this soup. 2. Your shield arm thinks it's volunteering for laundry duty instead. 3. Your spear grip looks like you're about to roast a very large marshmallow. The group demonstrates a mock charge. Feet pound the ground in unison, dust leaping at the rhythm. You stumble half a step late, your ankles tattling on you. Well-known fact. Warriors advanced in rank through captured prisoners, not slain enemies. Valor was measured by restraint and precision, not random fury. You imagine yourself tripping before managing either. The talk shifts to honor. One man describes the eagle warrior's feathers, blazing under sunlight. Another speaks of the jaguar warrior's spotted cloak, how it moved like night through day. You realize the titles aren't costumes. They're contracts with expectation. Every feather, every pelt earned with sweat, blood, and a prisoner's bound hands. You swallow, throat dry as unshaped clay. Historians argue whether the flower wars were primarily political theater or spiritual necessity. Was it empire maintenance, or was it feeding the cosmos? The men here don't argue. They nod, certain that both are true. A boy swings his macuahuitl, the wooden sword edged with obsidian. The sound is a thrum, sharp and hollow. You flinch even though he only hits air. Your arms ache just from watching. You remember the matate, the buckets, the firewood. Even chores were training, disguised as necessity. 3 more jokes shuffle into formation. 1. Your shield angle suggests you're protecting a tray of cookies. 2. Your battle face resembles someone spotting a spider in the bathroom. 3. Your macuahuitl swing would terrify no one except possibly grass. The older men chant briefly, a cadence that lifts their shoulders higher. The words ripple like water striking stone. You hum along, offbeat, hoping nobody notices. Curiosity flashes in a painted banner, its fabric stiff with dried pigment. It shows a sun with teeth, its rays biting into the edges of the cloth. You look too long, and the teeth start to feel personal. A hush lands suddenly. The talk of battles ends with the same sharpness it began. The silence feels heavier than the weapons. A man points toward the temple rising in the distance. You follow his finger to the twin towers, looming against the fading sky. Their steps seem endless, as if designed to outlast lungs. Well-known fact. Campaigns often ended here. Prisoners marched upward for rituals. The city was a cycle, spinning labor into war, war into sacrifice, sacrifice into order. You realize you are standing inside the gears. The group disperses with ease, back to chores, back to laughter. You stand still, carrying their stories like weights tied to your arms. Even the air feels trained for combat. 3 last jokes wave farewell with tired spears. 1. Your sandals claim honorable retirement after today's drills. 2. Your cloak not insists it survived battle against your incompetence. 3. Your spear arm files an official complaint against gravity. The canal water glints at you like nothing happened, but your breath still stumbles, heavy with borrowed fears. And you realize the city is teaching you war even in its pauses. The sun climbs without apology. It leans its full weight on your shoulders. Shadows shrink to honest little smudges that refuse to help. You follow a work crew toward the edge of Chinampa. The field looks calm from a distance, like a green book laid open. Up close, it's a list of tasks that all insist on being first. A man hands you a digging stick. It's polished by hands older than yours and smarter than your grip. You sink it into damp soil and feel the lake answer. The mud rises cool and dark. You heave it onto the bed, building edges that hold against the water. The line between land and canal is thin, patient, and always negotiating. Well-known fact. Chinampas were engineered with layers of mud, reeds, and roots. The living lattice below keeps the island stitched together. Your stick becomes a needle, and the day is thread. Sweat finds your temples and organizes a parade. Your borrowed cloak becomes a very committed oven. You knot it higher, and it sulks less. A woman shows you how to press seedlings into rows. Her fingers move like rain that knows where to fall. You try to copy the spacing and plant a small rebellion instead. She adjusts your row with 2 quiet motions. Now the seedlings sit like polite guests at a long table. They face the canal as if expecting a speech from the wind. Historians still debate the exact schedule of Chinampa rotations. How many cycles? Which crops? What spacing? Records hint at maize, beans, squash, amaranth, sometimes flowers sold at market. In practice, the answer is whatever keeps the island alive. The crew shifts to dredging. A canoe noses up, its lip chipped like a smile that works anyway. You step in and keep your fear on a short leash. The pole bites the canal bottom, and you push. Your arms protest, then remember they are attached to you. The canoe drifts forward with the calm superiority of boats everywhere. You rake up dark sludge that smells like yesterday's storms. It plops into the canoe with a dignified complaint. Someone laughs softly. The mud is ancient, but it still has opinions. Curiosity sidles in with a bundle of reeds. A boy weaves a quick fence at the bed's edge. The little wall will slow waves, catch floating debris, and appease momentum. Back on land, you pile dredged mud against the rows. It slumps, then settles, like a tired animal choosing to cooperate. Your shoulders tick through the hours like a metronome built from bone. 3 jokes sponge off your forehead and introduce themselves. 1. Your cloak has become a portable sauna with strong managerial instincts. 2. Your pole technique is rated excellent for stirring very large soup. 3. Your sandals believe hot dirt is a love language. The sun keeps pressing. A breeze arrives as if trying not to get in trouble. You forgive it for being small. Someone called for a shift, causeway repairs. You join the line carrying baskets of stone chips and tamped earth. The path, beaten thin by 1,000 careful feet, needs thickening. Well-known fact, the city's causeways tied island to shore, with bridges that could be removed. They were arteries for trade, war, and ordinary errands. Today, they are also your personal fitness curriculum. You dump a basket and stomp the fill into place. The ground answers with a low, satisfying crunch. It feels like writing a sentence the lake must agree to read. A man with a wooden mallet taps edges into discipline. Tap, step, cite the line, tap again. You fall into the cadence, apprentice to his certainty. Historians still debate whether crews like this were state-organized corvée or neighborhood duty on rotation. Lists of tribute exist, but the rhythm of feet is harder to archive. Here, the proof is dust that turns to road faster than you can doubt it. A runner Lopez passed, hair bound tight, carrying a wrapped message. He moves as if the heat is an inconvenience, not a verdict. Your pride requests a less athletic comparison and is denied. Curiosity waves from a stack of water jugs painted with simple lines. Someone shows you how to wet the surface lightly. The dust settles with a grateful sigh, and your lungs follow suit. 3 more jokes wave from the causeway ditch. 1. Your mallet swing is officially less hazardous to bystanders. 2. Your water splash aims for refreshing and achieves interpretive drizzle. 3. Your shadow refuses to carry baskets and says it's salaried. By midday, the light goes silver white, a blade without edge. Your eyes squint into a permanent thesis statement about glare. Even the lake pretends to be glass to see if you flinch. You break for food in a strip of shade that barely counts. A thin tamal with herbs passes from hand to hand. It tastes like courage that doesn't make speeches. Someone mentions the aqueduct, and heads nod with earned respect. Fresh water must cross the lake like a disciplined thought. If the flow falters, the city learns thirst quickly. Well-known fact, the Chapultepec aqueduct's twin channels let one be cleaned while the other ran. A design that planned for failure, so people wouldn't. You picture water marching in 2 files, helmets off, eyes forward. A mason gestures you over to a low wall near the canal. He shows how lime plaster gets smoothed with a flat stone. You take the tool, and the wall adopts a wary expression. The first pass scrapes, the second sighs, the third begins to shine. The mason nods once, which is a paragraph of approval. Your hands memorize a small, repeatable kindness. Historians still debate details of binders and certain finishes. Pure lime, mixes with organic additives, tricks now obscured by time. Recipes regarded like family stories. Your contribution is a decent rectangle that doesn't shed grit when blinked at. Curiosity brightens in a basket of flowers destined for market. Marigolds blaze like small suns that won't scold you. Their scent cuts through heat with cheerful authority. You carry the basket to a canoe with the care reserved for sleeping infants. Petals tremble, but the color refuses to. A woman thanks you with a nod that means you didn't ruin anything expensive. 3 jokes shuffle back to work. 1. Your plaster technique is good enough to fool a polite wall. 2. Your marigolds think you walk like a table with anxiety. 3. Your eyebrows have become tiny gutters for sweat. The crew moves again, this time to stack light stones along a slipping edge. Hands pass pieces one to another without ceremony. The line works like a single long arm that knows its job. You study the pattern. Large, small, wedge, test, adjust. It's Tetris with consequences and no pause button. The wall rises a handspan and decides to stay. A boy brings clay and presses it into gaps with 2 firm thumbs. He works with the composure of someone who can count a patient. You copy him and get clay up to your wrist, which still helps. Well-known fact, canals threaded the city, but they demanded maintenance as constant as breath. Silk creeps, edges slump, plants negotiate. The price of water is attention. The sun tips past its loudest point, merely assertive now. A thin cloud crosses like a traveling apology. Everyone accepts it without discussion. You return tools to their owners, and each tool looks tired in a dignified way. Hands rinse in bowls, water turning the color of effort. Nobody drinks first. The elder gestures, and the order becomes obvious. Historians still debate the daily meter of rest. How often, how long, how enforced. Bones and tools tell fragments, songs tell the rest. Your body votes for more sitting, which passes in a landslide inside your head. Curiosity lingers on a scrap of woven shade mat. A girl lifts it over your shoulders for a minute while you breathe. For that minute, shade becomes a place rather than an absence. 3 last jokes clock out with you. 1. Your mallet arm asks for a vacation to a cooler century. 2. Your cloak wants hazard pay for excessive sauna duties. 3. Your sandals propose flipping to become personal shade devices. The lake breeze finally earns its job title. It moves over your skin like a careful answer. You forgive the earlier hours because this one arrives. You stand at the canal's edge and watch light soften on the water. The causeway holds. The wall holds. The island holds. You realize the day has practiced you into usefulness. Not mastery, just less wrong. Less friction, more flow. Someone claps you on the back, light and approving. The sound is dust meeting palm, work greeting worker. You nod in a language you didn't know this morning. The sun, now a kinder teacher, steps back from the lesson. You collect your breath, smooth your cloak, and set the digging stick aside. It leans against the wall like a companion who intends to see you tomorrow. The call comes quietly, almost like a rumor. A neighbor waves you toward a small, round building of stone and mud. Steam curls from the roof like a soft question waiting for an answer. You're invited into a temazcal, a sweat bath sacred and ordinary at once. Its doorway is low, so you stoop, knees brushing the earth. Inside, the world shrinks into warmth, dark walls, and glowing stones. A woman pours water over the heated rocks. They hiss, exhale, and release clouds that wrap around your lungs. Your skin prickles instantly, as if it too remembers this ritual. Well-known fact, temazcales were used for cleansing, healing, and sometimes childbirth. The steam was medicine, the chamber of prayer you could breathe. Even warriors were expected to sweat their burdens into the stones. You sit against the wall, legs folded awkwardly. The ground is cool, but the air thickens like a heavy cloak. Each breath becomes an exercise, each inhale a negotiation. Curiosity flashes in a bundle of herbs swinging from the ceiling. They release scent as the steam touches them. Mint, sage, maybe something you can't name. The smell sharpens the air and softens your thoughts at the same time. A boy beside you laughs when you cough. He splashes water on the stones with casual reverence. The hiss grows louder, and the chamber seems to breathe. Historians still debate whether temazcal sessions were primarily medical, spiritual, or both. Some see them as therapy after long labor, others as rituals of rebirth. Sitting here, you understand there are many things at once. Sweat streaks your arms, trickles down your spine, fills your palms. You wipe it away, but more arrives. The air insists that you stop fighting and just surrender. A drum begins outside, slow and deliberate. Its beat seeps through the walls like a heart, reminding you where it lives. The rhythm steadies your panic into something closer to respect. 3 jokes slip into the steam with slippery grins. 1. Your cloak is relieved to be excluded from this sauna. 2. Your sandals wait outside, whispering gossip about how you'll faint. 3. Your sweat seems to believe it has joined a river marathon. The woman chants softly, sprinkling herbs onto the stones. The steam grows fragrant, layers of green and earth and sky. Each breath is work, but the work feels holy. You close your eyes and listen. Water on stone, drum on air, voices folded into rhythm. It's as if the chamber has erased everything except now. Curiosity stirs in a clay, cup passed your way. You sip the warm liquid. It tastes like herbs boiled in patience. Your throat thanks you even as your lips doubt the recipe. The heat climbs higher. Your thoughts wobble, your skin hums, your ears fill with pulse. The chamber narrows until it feels like you live entirely inside your chest. Well-known fact. Some accounts describe Temazcal as symbolic of the womb. To enter was to return. To exit was to be reborn. You realize the door feels very far away for such a small space. A man beside you exhales sharply, then stills. His face glows in the faint firelight, calm as carved stone. You wonder if you look the opposite. Uneasy, foreign, half-melted. Historians still debate how often commoners use the Temazcal versus nobles. Archaeological remains suggest wide access, but records lean toward elite emphasis. Either way, tonight you are folded into its circle. The stones hiss again. You imagine they are speaking languages older than your lungs. You don't need to understand, you just need to breathe. 3 more jokes float up with the steam. 1. Your hair has started a petition for open windows. 2. Your eyebrows are rehearsing escape strategies. 3. Your sweat is convinced it's auditioning for rainfall. Someone sings now, low and repetitive. The melody crawls under your skin, wraps around your tired bones. It says without words, you can endure, you can release, you can begin again. Your vision blurs slightly in the fog. Figures become shadows. Shadows become pulses of warmth. You lean against the wall, grateful for its solid, unmelting patience. The herbs swing overhead, dripping faint drops that feel like cool kisses. Each one lands like a reminder that the heat isn't the only truth. There are always balances, fire and water, smoke and air. Well-known fact. Spaniards later described these baths with suspicion, misunderstanding their purpose. Some dismissed them as superstition. Others saw them as dangerous excess. But here, inside, you feel them as necessary logic. The chant outside fades, and the steam begins to thin. The woman opens the door flap, and light crashes in like fresh air, turns solid. You crawl out, skin flushed, lungs wide, legs unsteady. The night air kisses your body with sudden mercy. Goosebumps rise in celebration, even though you're still dripping. The stars above look brighter than they did an hour ago. 3 last jokes bow at the doorway. 1. Your sandals laugh because you stagger like someone on a boat. 2. Your cloak sighs dramatically, offended it wasn't invited. 3. Your hair has decided to embrace its new, wet hay chic. You sit on a stone, trembling but calm. The canal reflects the stars, as if the bath spilled them. Your body hums with heat, your mind rests in quiet. The Temazcal door closes behind the last figure. Inside, stones still hiss, herbs still swing, chants still echo. But outside, the air belongs to you again, clean and forgiving. Night settles in like a shawl, and dinner gathers itself without speeches. You sit near the hearth where a clay comel glows faintly. The air tastes of roasted maize and cautious chilies. A woman lays tortillas with the precision of a clockmaker. Each one puffs a little, like it just remembered something pleasant. You watch and try not to applaud bread doing yoga. A bowl arrives, red and shimmering. It is a salsa that breathes in small dragons. You nod politely to the dragons and reconsider your life choices. Well-known fact. Maize here is treated with lime in a process called nixtamalization. It unlocks nutrients and turns kernels into dough that feeds an empire. You bite a tortilla and realize it tastes like engineering seasoned with smoke. Curiosity taps your sleeve in the form of small roasted insects. Chapulins, someone says, offering a handful like salted peanuts. They crunch, lemony and light, and your courage crunches too. You try a cautious sprinkle on your tortilla. The texture pops. The flavor chases heat with a quick lime sprint. Your eyebrows, unconsulted stakeholders, retreat toward your hairline. A clay cup follows, cacao frothed with water and a whisper of chili. It is thick, unsweet, ceremonial in its calm. You sip and meet chocolate that refuses to be dessert. Historians still debate how widely commoners drank cacao outside special days. Some accounts lift it to noble tables. Others let it visit humble homes, thinned and plain. Tonight, it visits you like a dignitary who doesn't do small talk. A boy laughs softly at your first sip. You shrug and call it serious chocolate. He nods as if translating, yes. Grown-up thunder. 3 jokes pull up stools and announce themselves. 1. Your tongue has filed a spicy incident report. 2. Your eyebrows now specialize in semaphore. 3. Your chocolate mug says it's a philosopher, not a milkshake. Tamal bundles arrive, leaf-wrapped and fragrant. Herbs thread through masa like quiet music. You break one open and steam writes a poem on your face. A woman sets out squash blossoms cooked with episode. They taste like summer practicing for responsibility. You fold them into a tortilla, and the tortilla forgives everything you did today. Curiosity returns with a dish of roasted amaranth grains, tiny and bright. They crackle between your teeth like distant fireworks. Someone calls them joy seeds, and your mouth refuses to disagree. Well-known fact: beans, squash, and maize form the staple triad. Together, they make a complete protein that keeps work honest. Your stomach signs the treaty with gratitude. Childs get their own moment, the red, the green, the almost black. Each one carries a personality you can't meet all at once. You choose diplomacy and add only a respectful dot. A man grinds cacao on a stone and adds flour to cacao. He whips the drink to a froth with a wooden whisk. The foam sits like a small storm cloud considering rain. You ask how to say thank you without sounding like a tourist. A woman shows you 2 words, 1 steady nod, both practiced. Your mouth tries them, and the words fit like a borrowed shawl. Historians still debate whether turkey featured often on ordinary tables. The record shifts between feast and famine, plenty and patience. Tonight, dinner chooses plants and lets birds keep their feathers. 3 more jokes find seats between bowls. 1. Your tortilla fold has applied to art school. 2. Your salsa strategy is minimalism with survival goals. 3. Your cacao mustache makes you look like a very dignified cat. Someone passes a small dish of prickly pear slices. They glow pink, cold, and forgiving. Seeds crunch like tiny, well-behaved drums. You ask about salt, and laughter answers. Of course there's salt. Plain white certainty in a bowl. You pinch a little and realize certainty can be kind. A pot of beans arrives, soft as bedtime. They carry the memory of smoke and a hint of episode's stern advice. You scoop them with a tortilla, and the day nods in approval. Curiosity drifts in on a scent of toasted pumpkin seeds. They're pounded into a paste that leans towards sauce. Nutty, green, and grounded, it steadies the plate like ballast. Well-known fact: vanilla, native to these lands, hides in storerooms like quiet lightning. It visits cacao when invited and never stays too long. You catch it for a heartbeat, then it disappears behind the chili. 2 girls braid strips of cooked maize husk, laughing in soft ricochets. They turn leftovers into little toys for the dog. The dog pretends not to watch and fails. A man offers a fermented drink, tart and mild. It tastes like history with training wheels. You choose not to ask too many questions and choose to sip again. Historians still debate the balance between household gardens and market reliance. Chinampas feed, markets trade, seasons negotiate with appetite. Your plate suggests the verdict is both, carefully. 3 other jokes kneel at your plate and whisper. 1. Your chapuline count is exactly brave enough. 2. Your cacao record now shows philosophically hydrated. 3. Your tortilla to filling ratio has been promoted from chaos to logic. You watch hands move around the hearth. A choreography of reach, place, offer. No one announces jobs. Everyone has one anyway. Even passing a bowl has posture. A boy shows you how to fold a tortilla into a tidy triangle. Yours looks like a kite with stage fright. He claps once, and it gathers itself into something a triangle might recognize. Curiosity points toward a bowl of green sauce that doesn't warn in red. You try a fingertip taste, fresh, grassy kind. Then the kindness taps your throat with a small flint and grins. Well-known fact. Chili isn't just heat, it's flavor mapping. Your tongue learns valleys, then hills, then a cliff it respects from a distance. You become a cartographer who writes with tiny bites. Someone tells a story about trading flowers for shells. Another counters with feathers for copper bells. The table becomes a map of voices that never need paper. Historians still debate how strictly feast days dictated richer meals. Calendars point one way, kitchens point another. Tonight, the menu points to enough. 3 final jokes pat your shoulder with saucy fingers. 1. Your mouth has negotiated a ceasefire with the salsa union. 2. Your eyebrows file for overtime pay. 3. Your philosopher cacao has started citing sources, none of them sweet. You lean back, warm and properly fed. The hearth snaps like a friend finishing a story. The comel glows, ready for one more round if asked nicely. Dishes stack with the tidy rhythm of practiced endings. Water splashes, cloths ring, bowls return to shelves that remember their names. Nobody hurries, nobody lingers too long. Outside, the canal lifts a silver shoulder to the moon. Inside, the last tortilla breathes out its steam and goes quiet. You thank the room because rooms like this deserve it. Your tongue still glows a little at the edges. Your hands smell of corn and smoke and a polite chili. Your breath carries chocolate that refuses to apologize. You rise with the others, not early, not late. The doorway frames the night like a calm picture. Somewhere a drum turns over in its sleep and settles. You step out, full without boasting. The air is cool and tasteful. A star winks behind a drifting thread of smoke. The night deepens, and you find yourself drawn toward the temple precinct. Torches flare along the steps, smoke curling into constellations not yet invented. The air thickens with incense, drums, and the sense that someone is always watching. You hesitate because this is not a place of rest. It is a place of demand. The stones seem to breathe with memory, waiting for your clumsy lungs. Well-known fact, the Templo Mayor had twin shrines, one to Huitzilopochtli, god of war, the other to Tlaloc, god of rain. 2 forces balanced uneasily but faithfully. The steps between them stretched like a ladder that dared the sky. You climb slowly, sandals whispering their disapproval. Each riser is tall, designed to humble. Your breath trips before your feet do. At the base of the shrine, priests in white cotton tunics move with deliberate calm. Their faces are painted in patterns that shift the line between human and sacred. One glances at you, and your stomach remembers every sin you didn't know you had. Curiosity flickers in the form of copal bowls, glowing red beneath their smoke. The resin melts and hisses like small sacrifices already made. A priest stirs the embers as though coaxing stories from their ash. Historians still debate the frequency of rituals, daily, weekly, layered with seasonal feasts. The calendars overlap, and their precision makes modern planners look lazy. Here, you feel that rhythm isn't counted in days, but in debts. A boy carries paper banners, cut into shapes of serpents and stars. They flutter against the torchlight like delicate shadows with sharp edges. He ties one to a pole, and the pole instantly looks heavier. The drums begin again, slow at first, then thick as storm clouds. They roll through your ribs until you can't tell if the beat is inside or outside. Your breath gives up, and lets the rhythm drive. 3 jokes sneak in, even here. 1. Your cloak not looks like a humble offering. 2. Your sandals are praying for shorter stairs. 3. Your knees have joined a union called Endless Steps Anonymous. A priest chants in a voice that sounds older than his body. It rises, falls, threads itself into the drumbeat like a chord. The words are sharp with names you barely recognize, but feel anyway. Curiosity approaches with a bundle of maguey spines. They glint in the firelight, precise and patient. Someone whispers they are for penance, a reminder that even skin can be a gift. You touch your own arm instinctively. Relieved, no one hands you a spine. Still, you sense the expectation hovering, as if one day it might. The thought makes your pulse skip like a stone across water. Well-known fact. Bloodletting was part of devotion, seen as nourishment for gods. It wasn't spectacle every time, but intimacy, drops of self, offered quietly. That intimacy makes you shiver more than the idea of grandeur. Historians still debate whether commoners were required to witness large rituals. Some say attendance was expected. Others argue daily chores excused many. Yet the pull of drums suggests absence was unthinkable. Torches flare higher, painting shadows like living statues on the walls. The smoke wraps you until your eyes sting with reverence. The whole precinct breathes, and you're the lungs. A boy beside you whispers a myth about the sun's hunger. If it isn't fed, it will stop moving. You look at the eastern sky, dark now, and realize how fragile morning suddenly feels. The priest lifts a vessel painted with serpents. He pours liquid that glows faintly in the torchlight. The ground drinks it, and the crowd exhales as if relieved. 3 more jokes tiptoe nervously. 1. Your knees are lobbying for elevator technology. 2. Your lungs file a complaint about unsolicited drum collaborations. 3. Your cloak insists it should have stayed home to guard the hearth. You listen to prayers naming mountains, rivers, rain. Each syllable is a knot tying the city to the cosmos. You don't understand the language fully, but you understand the weight. Curiosity gleams in a priest's headdress, heavy with feathers and jade beads. It sways with each movement, not fragile but firm. You wonder how many birds and stones agreed to lend their voices. The drums thunder into silence, sharp and sudden. Your ears ring with ghosts of beats that refuse to leave. The crowd lowers heads, and you lower yours too. Historians still debate how much awe was genuine versus trained by law. Was the fear felt or instructed? Standing here, you realize the answer doesn't matter. Fear is effective either way. The priest lifts a torch, sweeping its light across the crowd. Shadows kneel instantly, like soldiers obeying. You kneel too, your knees reluctantly but firmly on duty. Well-known fact. Many rituals tied to agriculture, rain, and the cycle of maize. What fed people also fed gods, and vice versa. Your body feels like one more field, planted with expectation. The chanting eases, leaving only the hiss of copal. The smoke drifts toward the sky, carrying with it words you didn't speak. Still, you feel as though they left your chest anyway. 3 last jokes shuffle out of the incense. 1. Your knees are now honorary citizens of the temple steps. 2. Your sandals dream of quiet dirt paths, not sacred staircases. 3. Your cloak sighs dramatically as if it, too, carried the torch. The ceremony closes without fanfare. People file down the steps, quiet, orderly, heavy with reflection. You follow, feet sore, lungs expanded, spirit smaller but steadier. At the base, the night feels thicker, but the stars clearer. The temple towers above, glowing faintly like twin watchfires. You turn away, knowing its eyes will remain on your back all night. You follow the slow river of people toward a wide plaza. Torches ring the space like a necklace of small suns. A stage of packed earth waits, already breathing like a living thing. Musicians sit cross-legged near the front. Flutes lean against drums. Conch shells rest like sleeping moons. Atepanasli's carved slick grins, ready to speak in wood. A man in a butterfly cape steps into the light. The wings shimmer with painted flakes, quivering at the edges. He lifts his arms, and the plaza learns how to inhale together. Well-known fact: festivals here braided dance, song, and drama into offerings. Panquetzalisli honored Huitzilopochtli with banners and precise choreography. Tonight has that gravity, even if its name isn't said aloud. A chorus begins as if the ground itself opened a mouth. Voices rise in measured layers, steady as steps up a temple. You feel the melody take your balance and correct it. Curiosity flutters from a basket of clay whistles shaped like birds. A girl hands you one and gestures, "Listen." She blows, and the night answers with a hawk that never needed feathers. The first scene unfolds without a curtain. A dancer with a serpent staff circles the stage, feet sipping dust. He draws a path only the air can read. Paper banners sway above, their cut edges telling tiny stories. When the drummer lifts his mallet, the paper seems to nod. You stand very still, so your breath doesn't rewrite anything. 3 jokes sit on your shoulder like polite sparrows. 1. Your whistle believes it graduated from bird school with honors. 2. Your sandals claim they're here for the art. 3. Your cloak has notes about the lighting design. A masked figure enters, mirror mosaic flashing at his chest. He moves with the calm of someone who knows where the story ends. Reflections hop across faces, brief and perfect as coins. Historians still debate whether these dramas were repeating scripts or living frameworks. Some see set narratives taught by priests. Others hear improvisation guided by omens. Either way, the precision tonight feels practiced enough to demand awe. The conch roars, and the plaza tilts toward ocean. Dancers answer with a low bend, palms riding invisible waves. Your ribs loosen as if the instrument taught them how. A woman with painted tears lifts a bowl of flowers. She scatters petals that spin like soft confetti. Each petal seems to vote yes. A new rhythm Lopez in, feline and quiet. Jaguar pelt at the shoulders, bells on ankles like patient rain. His steps stalk a circle until the circle learns to purr. Well-known fact: Macuahuitl, shields, and banners appeared not only in war but in pageantry. Symbols moved before armies did, and sometimes instead of armies. The stage remembers both possibilities at once. A procession winds through the crowd, very close to you. Faces painted in red bars and black spirals. One man's hair is bound with a quetzal plume that acts like green fire. Curiosity tugs at your sleeve. Paper masks stacked on a reed tray. A handler offers one to a child, who becomes a hummingbird in a breath. The child flits in place, convinced the night will keep nectar where needed. The chorus hushes to a single singer. Her voice threads a line across the sky. You follow it with your eyes and discover it tied to the moon. 3 more jokes tiptoe past security. 1. Your whistle refuses to fit in your pocket and calls it artistic integrity. 2. Your ankles want to submit or resume to the bell section. 3. Your cloak has learned to swish on cue and now wants billing. On stage, a painted mountain appears, wooden frame draped in dark cloth. Dancers climb its steps in slow, deliberate beats. At the top, a figure in blue-green gestures rainward. The Tepanasli's voice gets rounder, more water than wood. The Huetl replies like distant thunder, approving the rehearsal. You realize practice and prayer are siblings in this plaza. Historians still debate audience roles, silent witnesses, ritual choristers, or participants entering the geometry. Some accounts mention public refrains. Others keep songs behind temple doors. Tonight, the crowd hums under its breath as if memory runs wider than permission. A pair of tricksters bound in, masks smiling with exaggerated teeth. They mime stealing a gourd and getting caught by a very stern broom. Laughter ripples, soft, aloud, grateful for the breath it buys. Well-known fact, humor's mask isn't modern. Even solemn cycles allow a hinge for release. Laughter oils ceremony, so the gears don't burn. You laugh too, careful not to startle the gods. Curiosity sits in a stack of folded capes patterned like rain. Assistants snap one open and dress a dancer mid-step. The movement doesn't break. The fabric simply agrees. A sequence honoring Maze begins. Dancers tread in lines like tidy furrows. Hands tilt as though pouring light into soil. A woman kneels and opens a gourd rattle. Seeds whisper across her palm before she sets them free. They scatter like soft punctuation on the ground. 3 more jokes line up in the wings. 1. Your whistle insists it can hit notes only dogs and gods can hear. 2. Your sandals are developing opinions about choreography. 3. Your cloak claims it understands symbolism and is currently contemplating fold. The conch returns with a call shaped like a long, bent road. Dancers pivot, then face east, then lift their hands. Night breathes out through the crowd's collective shoulders. A masked wind rushes through, capes snapping like a polite flag. He steals a banner and returns it twice to teach a small lesson in loss. You feel the moral land gently, like dust that knows where to settle. Historians still debate the identity of certain masks, deities, heroes, or calendrical days personified. Glyphs don't always confess their names to strangers. Your job tonight is to witness, not to rename. A low set of drums creates a path. Dancers follow it as if the sound were a bridge only feet can see. Your heartbeat hops on, delighted to be included. Well-known fact, ocarinas and whistles shaped like animals could mimic birds and beasts. Music here speaks multiple dialects without vowels. You listen until you stop translating and start believing. A final tableau grows from slow arrangements of bodies. Arms become hills. Capes become sky. A single torch held high convinces itself into sun. The plaza holds its breath on purpose. The torch wavers and then steadies, a small victory everyone shares. Your chest unclenches the way doors do when a key finds home. 3 last jokes, take careful bows. 1. Your whistle now claims artistic differences and wants a solo career. 2. Your ankles request no encore, but wink about it. 3. Your cloak whispers that it, too, could have been a banner in another life. The chorus dissolves like ink in water. Drums soften until they're simply the night's own pulse. People open space for each other without speaking. Incense drifts sideways, collecting stars you can't quite see. Banners settle, content with how much they fluttered. The earth stage returns to being ground, which is the most generous role of all. You hand the girl her bird whistle. She nods like an elder and tucks it into a woven pouch. Somehow, the pouch looks older than your century. The crowd thins by lanes and canals, unbraiding without knots. Torchlight pools and then pours away. You remain a moment longer, as if the plaza asked you to. Somewhere a conch gives one final breath. It sounds like a shore deciding to stay. You don't move until choosing feels respectful. When you finally turn, the stage is only dirt again, but your feet still carry measured echoes, and your hands remember wings they never wore. The plaza empties, but you're steered toward another corner of the city. Here, the air feels thicker, not with incense, but with rank. A group of nobles approaches, and suddenly every step around you slows. Their cloaks shine with dyes that refuse to fade. Feathers gleam even in torchlight, green and gold like bottled sunrise. Each gesture is deliberate, each silence heavier than words. Well-known fact, nobles were easily identified by their dress, jewelry, and attendance. Cotton, turquoise, quetzal plumes, materials that commoners touched rarely, if ever. Here, luxury is not indulgence, but hierarchy stitched in public. A man with jade ears pulls passes close, eyes forward. His attendants carry torches so he never needs to stumble in shadow. You lower your gaze because everyone else does. Curiosity sparks at a golden lip plug worn by another noble. It catches the firelight and throws it back like a second sun. You wonder if speaking with it feels like having the universe in your mouth. Historians still debate how rigidly nobles lived apart from commoners. Some argue interaction was constant through tribute. Others stress isolation behind ceremony. The truth, like most, balances between distance and demand. One woman sweeps past in a cloak embroidered with tiny shells. They click faintly, like waves whispering through her hem. Your sandals shrink in embarrassment. 3 jokes bow far too low in your mind. 1. Your cloak sulks at the unfair competition. 2. Your sandals insist they are minimalist couture. 3. Your hair pretends sweat is a fashionable style. The nobles pause to speak with a priest. Their voices are low, carrying weight not by volume, but by assumption. You strain to listen, but all you hear is the sound of importance. A boy whispers in your ear, "Don't stare." You realize your eyes have been climbing embroidery patterns too long. You look down, studying dirt that suddenly feels safer. Well-known fact. Noble houses receive tribute from vast networks of villages. Cotton garments, cacao beans, and carved jade flowed upward like rivers of wealth. Each noble's cloak might represent 100 distant fields. Curiosity glimmers in a turquoise necklace shaped like jaguar teeth. It sways gently as its owner shifts weight. You can't decide if it protects or threatens, maybe both. The nobles move on, the crowd folding back in a place behind them. Conversations resume, softer now, like echoes afraid of being caught. You exhale without realizing you had been holding breath. Historians still debate whether nobles earned respect through merit or inheritance. Some records describe advancement for warriors, others lock rank to bloodlines. The debate feels meaningless when one look from them erases your voice. A noble child trails behind, cloak too long, steps uneven. His nurse fusses with the hem, adjusting it for dignity. Even stumbling, he walks inside a circle of reverence. 3 more jokes slip past your restraint. 1. Your cloak claims it too deserves a torch escort. 2. Your sandals volunteer for seashell embroidery. 3. Your stomach, still full from dinner, nominates itself as nobility. A servant sweeps the ground where nobles walked. Dust settles reluctantly, as if trained to resist. You step aside quickly, unworthy of the path. Curiosity hums in a feather fan carried by an attendant. It spreads wider than your torso, quills stiff, colors fierce. The fan moves not to cool air, but to cool authority. Well-known fact. Nobles could be executed for crimes commoners survived with fines. The higher the station, the sharper the fall. Privilege and danger share a bed here. A man whispers about the Telatoni, the speaker ruler. His word shapes tribute, war and law. His palace rises not far away, glowing faintly under moonlight. Historians still debate the daily lives of these elites. Were they insulated by ceremony or tangled in constant duty? The city's hum suggests both are exhausting. The nobles disappear into torchlit lanes. The crowd exhales again, adjusting cloaks, resuming errands. It feels as if a storm cloud just passed without rain. 3 last jokes linger in the silence. 1. Your sandals say they've never been more invisible, and they love it. 2. Your cloak suggests that nobility clearly skips laundry day. 3. Your knees insist they bowed too quickly and want hazard pay. You walk slower now, still carrying the echo of authority. The night feels different, sharper, heavier, yet strangely beautiful. Every torch seems taller after noble eyes have walked past. You turn a corner and step into a square that carries a quieter kind of thunder. No drums, no conch, no chorus. Just a circle of people, a post, and the kind of attention that bruises. A crier speaks, voice even as a plumb line. He names an offense you barely catch, something about market scales. The crowd leans in, not hungry, just instructed. Well-known fact. Public punishment was theater with a syllabus. Shaved heads, broken goods, fines paid in cacao or labor. Shame worked faster than chains. A man stands with hands bound, eyes fixed on a point past everything. His cloak is gone. His hair looks recently cut, deliberate in its roughness. A guard lifts a club the way a teacher lifts a pointer. The blow is not savage, only sufficient. It lands where everyone can see it and no one can misinterpret it. You flinch, and the flinch feels loud. Curiosity glints in the beam of a weighing scale laid out on a mat. Standard stones sit beside it, stamped and certain. A boy examines them as if they were small, obedient planets. Historians still debate how often punishments turned lethal for common offenses. Some sources describe measured discipline. Others tell of extreme penalties meant to echo. The square in front of you favors clarity over spectacle. A vendor steps forward with a box of confiscated false weights. He empties them, and they scatter like dull birds. Someone writes on a strip of bark paper with charcoal, noting the count. 3 jokes tiptoe in, careful where they step. 1. Your sandals swear they're exactly the right weight. Light as good intentions. 2. Your cloak insists it has never cheated a scale, only gravity. 3. Your eyebrows are practicing neutral and failing their audition. The crier moves on to a second case, a curfew breach. A teenage boy stares at his toes as if they are evidence. His mother stands behind him, jaw set like a carved lintel. Punishment is swift, a public scolding, a shaved patch, a day of sweeping. The broom is produced like a legal document. The boy takes it with both hands, as if accepting a story he now must tell. Well-known fact. Elders could discipline youths with chili smoke or nettle brushes. Not always, not everywhere, but often enough to leave a reputation. Tonight, the broom is stern enough. A judge sits under an awning, face calm, hair bound tight. He hears brief petitions, gestures once, resolves them like knots. Each case takes less time than making a tortilla. Historians still debate the latitude given to local judges. How much custom, how much code? Some lists are exact. Some sentences carry the flavor of neighborhood. You taste both in the way people nod before the verdict is spoken. A woman accused of watering down, pulque, steps forward. Her hands are steady, her voice level. She offers 2 witnesses and the right to test the jar on the spot. A guard drinks, grimaces with surprise, and coughs. The square laughs, polite and brief. The woman's fine becomes a warning instead. The crowd's memory enlisted as ledger. Curiosity pings from a string of clay, tokens hanging on a peg. Each marks a paid fine, a past offense, a closed loop. They clack softly when touched, like a modest wind chime of consequences. 3 more jokes arrive, keeping their voices down. 1. Your cloak swears it could never water anything down. It absorbs policy. 2. Your sandals file a complaint about standing during jurisprudence. 3. Your gourd rattle from dance class claims it could keep better order with a beat. A man with ash on his hands is brought forward, wood gathering from a forbidden grove. He explains drought, need, distance. The judge listens and reduces the penalty to canal work at dawn. The crowd approves with a murmur that feels like rain deciding on generosity. Mercy here is practical, not poetic. It protects forests while remembering mouths. Well-known fact. Theft drew harsher lines. Repeat offenses could end in slavery or death. Property folded into duty, duty into survival. You sense how thin the fabric is, how easily torn by hunger. A guard raises a bundle of dyed cloth. Sumptuary rules. The wearer, a young man, stares at the ground while his fine is counted in beans. The cloth is placed on a tray for redistribution to the temple store. Historians still debate how often clothing laws were enforced beyond festivals. Enforcement may have waxed and waned like lake levels. Today, The lesson wears bright thread and looks expensive. Curiosity kneels beside a small cage with a clay lid. Inside, a singing cricket chirps like a stubborn clock. A boy pays one bean to take it home, penance wrapped in delight. 3 jokes sidle up wearing very serious faces. 1. Your sandal suggests crickets should handle timekeeping from now on. 2. Your cloak wants to declare itself humble cotton by legal definition. 3. Your eyebrows petition the judge for a rest break. The crier announces a boundary dispute between neighbors. String and stakes appear from nowhere, as if conflict has a travel kit. A line is measured, remeasured, and agreed upon like a shared prayer. A priest steps in only once to bless a settlement with a pinch of copal ash. Law and ritual touch for a heartbeat and then step back. The air smells briefly of relief carving. Well-known fact, markets had their own officials, inspectors, judges, enforcers of order. Tlatelolco's reputation for fairness was as valuable as its goods. You see why. Nothing destroys trade faster than doubt. A runner slips through the edge of the square, whispers to a guard, and vanishes. News is a second system of law. It arranges faces as quickly as verdicts. People adjust stances the way flocks turn. Historians still debate whether corporal punishment was meant to deter or to knit community through shared witnessing. Perhaps both. The square feels like a seamstress who uses strong thread. Stitches hold because everyone watched them being made. A final case, a drunk who heckled the ceremony. He stands with head bowed, hair wild, breath telling its own story. The sentence is simple. Sweep the temple stairs, then sit beside the old men and listen. The man nods, eyes wet without drama. An elder claps his shoulder once, sealing the pact. The square exhales. The broom finds another hand. Curiosity lingers in the official staff, carved with knots like a topographical map of authority. He sets it down, and even the wood seems to stand straighter than you. Respect is contagious in this air. 3 last jokes pass a note you pretend not to read. 1. Your cloak is worried a fashion infraction will find it retroactively. 2. Your sandals vow never to step on forbidden wood unless it volunteers. 3. Your eyebrows declare neutrality in all market disputes. The crowd thins without chatter. People leave as if returning borrowed attention. The square empties to a clean echo. You remain, counting how many kinds of silence exist after sentences. There is the silence of relief, the silence of warning, and the silence that files everything for later. A breeze moves the scale pan, and it creaks forgivingly. The cricket chirps once from its new home down the lane. Somewhere, a broom begins its penance with bristles that know the steps. You turn away, careful with your own small weight. Your feet remember the lines you shouldn't cross. Your hands remember how easily a knot can mean the wrong thing. The night stretches, not kinder or crueler, just exact. You walk on causeway dust that has heard 1,000 verdicts. It holds your footprint without taking sides. Torches burn lower now, their lights soft as tired eyes. The streets quiet, though not fully. This city never sleeps entirely. Voices taper into murmurs, and the canals grow louder in the hush. You find a place near the water, where the night is thick with stories. Old men sit cross-legged, children curled against their knees. A torch crackles, painting smoke into little ghosts that drift upward. One man clears his throat and begins. His voice is gravel wrapped in silk, steady and unhurried. Everyone leans in, including you, the outsider pretending to belong. Well-known fact. Aztec life carried myths everywhere, from hearth to temple. Legends were classrooms, lullabies, and warnings all braided together. The storytellers here are both entertainment and archive. He speaks of the 5 suns, the worlds born and broken before this one. Jaguar sun devoured, wind sun scattered, rain sun drowned, water sun undone. And now, the 5th sun, ours fragile as breath. Curiosity flickers in a carved gourd past between listeners. Its surface shows spirals and flames etched by patient hands. The boy beside you runs a finger over it like a map of memory. Another elder takes over with a tale of Tlaloc. His tears made rain, but his silence made drought. Children listen wide-eyed, imagining the sky itself sulking. Historians still debate whether these myths were shared exactly the same across households. Regional twists, local deities, and variations blurred strict lines. What mattered most was not uniformity, but continuity. A woman hums a soft refrain between tales. Her tune folds around the fire like a second blanket. Children drift towards sleep, their dreams already busy with jaguars and rain. 3 jokes perch on the edges of your tired brain. 1. Your sandals insist they too deserve mythological origin stories. 2. Your cloak sulks because no one sung about knots yet. 3. Your eyebrows stage a pantomime every time lightning is mentioned. The next story is of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. He brings maize to humans, gift and debt in one. The children giggle when the elder hisses like a serpent mid-sentence. You try to hiss too, softly. The boy beside you laughs, not unkindly. Your attempt is filed under foreign but acceptable. Curiosity hums in a drum resting near the fire. Its skin, painted with spirals, reflects light like water moving. The elder taps it once, and the story grows a heartbeat. Well-known fact, the Nahuatl word Quetzalcoatl meant both song and poem. Stories were sung as often as spoken, carried by rhythm. You understand why. The cadence makes the memory stick. The tale turns darker. Omens in the sky, shadows on the moon. A fire serpent streaking the heavens, foretelling change. The children clutch closer, half fear, half delight. Historians still debate how seriously omens shaped political choices. Codices record them with gravity, but interpretation is never simple. Some see them as hindsight, others as catalysts for real decisions. The elder coughs, then laughs, then resumes. His voice shifts, playful now, telling a trickster tale. A rabbit in the moon, stealing pulque, teaching humility to heroes. 3 more jokes shuffle near the fire. 1. Your sandals say they could outsmart that rabbit. 2. Your cloak insists it would make an excellent lunar flag. 3. Your stomach argues it deserves pulque, but politely declines the rabbit. Children laugh loud, adults laugh softer, the fire laughs with sparks. The myth doesn't need translation. Mischief always travels well. Even you feel lighter, as if a rabbit hopped into your ribcage. A pause arrives, respectful, natural. The torches gutter lower, the fire shrinks to embers. Faces glow briefly, then soften into shadow. One man points to the sky where the moon hangs. He traces shapes, rabbit, serpent, cloud, memory. The children squint, and you squint too, finding half of what he promises. Well-known fact, myths were not bedtime escape, but instruction manuals. They taught duty, humility, the edges of arrogance, the cost of neglect. Sleep was invited, but wisdom was the admission fee. Curiosity curls in the smoke drifting upward. You wonder what stories the smoke carries with it, retold among stars. Maybe even the stars need reminders. 3 last jokes yawn and wave farewell. 1. Your sandals pretend they're ancient relics worthy of a myth. 2. Your cloak declares itself a minor deity of tangles. 3. Your eyebrows perform an epic saga whenever sparks fly. The gathering dissolves gently. Children carried inside, elders stretching joints, fire sighing itself small. You remain by the canal, still listening to water repeat the stories back. The night deepens, stitched with myth and smoke. You breathe it in, half prayer, half lullaby. The city sleeps one eye open, and you close both ears for a while. Dawn does not ask permission. It climbs the lake in pale bands, steady as a farmer's hand. Mist loosens its grip on reeds, and gives them back to light. You wake on the mat you barely deserved. Your bones vote against standing, but the city outvotes them. Somewhere, a grinding stone begins before you manage a first thought. The courtyard rustles to life with a choreography you now recognize. Fire stirs, water answers, maze clears its throat. Your borrowed cloak finds your shoulders like a forgiver with conditions. A woman hums as she kneads masa. The tune is yesterday's and tomorrow's, and older than both. You breathe to it because breathing to it works. Well-known fact, this city ran on cycles as strict as calendars. Tanaup Wali for ritual, Zyapa Wali for sun. Days braided into markets, markets into feasts, feasts into memory. Your body has joined the braid whether it likes braids or not. You carry water again because water wins every argument. The jar is familiar now, which is either comfort or surrender. Your wrists choose comfort and hold their peace. Curiosity perches on a dew-beaded spiderweb between two reeds. The web vibrates with tiny messages you can't decode. You admire the engineering and decide not to interview the spider. The canal looks newly washed, like the night polished it carefully. Canoes nudge their moorings, eager as dogs who know the route. Flowers ride to market upright, smug with color. 3 jokes arrive yawning. 1. Your sandals insist they are morning people only by contract. 2. Your cloak claims it invented dawn chic. 3. Your hair has declared diplomatic immunity from humidity. A boy gestures, causeway patch, again. You walk with him, your steps already knowing where the loose spots hide. The path receives you with the grudging respect of project managers. Historians still debate how much of this maintenance was scheduled versus reactive. Some argue meticulous rosters, others 1,000 tiny alarms answered by neighbors. Your muscles file under whatever gets it done before sun gets rude. You tamp earth, pass stones, splash careful water. It is a hymn without words, and you know 2 verses now. By the 3rd, the ground stops wobbling and accepts its job. Breakfast returns in steam and circles. You fold a tortilla with competent fingers, and it stays folded. A boy notices and nods, promotion granted by glance. Curiosity arrives in a heap of fresh-combed fibers. Maguey strips glisten like shy fish. A woman twists them in a cord, and your fingers try, then ask for tutoring. A runner blurs past, hair-bound, mouth set. His feet write quick messages the causeway can read. You wonder what sentence you would be trusted to deliver. Well-known fact, fresh water from the aqueduct kept the heart of the city sweet. Clay pipes, wooden troughs, stone channels all argued for cleanliness. And most days they won the argument. Your thoughts wander to the temple, still watching. Its steps already warming under a thin skin of light. You feel small, and correctly so. 3 more jokes stretch. 1. Your shadow claims seniority and refuses to hurry. 2. Your ankles demand hazard pay for repetitive competence. 3. Your shoulders practice a union chant that sounds suspiciously like yawning. You pass the market's edge as stalls wake like sunflowers. Cacao beans clatter into neat piles, tiny brown constellations. Scales settle, honest again, under the crier's eye. A fisherman lifts a net that drips its own weather. Silver flickers argue briefly, then calm. He grins at you as if you've earned a minor tide. Historians still debate the peak population numbers for this basin. 200,000? More? The debate feels like counting waves with your hands. Possible, but wet. Someone calls you to the metate, an invitation disguised as obligation. You kneel, and the stone accepts your return like a supervisor with standards. The grind sounds better today, less complaint, more agreement. Curiosity peers from a small gourd with black paste. A woman paints a thin line beneath her eye with the calm of habit. You ask nothing. Some ceremonies prefer witnesses to students. A dog dozes where yesterday's heat remembered him kindly. He opens one eye to confirm your intentions, then forgives you again. Your sandals refrain from squeaking, which the dog appreciates. 3 jokes arrive on tiptoe. 1. Your cloak claims it's fluent in morning breezes. 2. Your hair applies for the position of moral of the humidity story. 3. Your rattle from dance practice wants to unionize with the metate for better rhythm. Tasks stack, shrink, and finish. Swept dust writes a brief paragraph, then erases itself. The lake curls a finger of wind around your ear like a teacher whispering, "Focus." You notice your own posture has changed. Less apology, more alignment. The ground stops needing to correct you every third step. Well-known fact: tribute lists name cloth, grain, birds, pots. Domestic miracles counted as tax. The empire wasn't built only by war, but by regular hands measuring regular effort. You have become a decimal point on that ledger, and the math is humbling. Someone offers you a sip of cacao, frothed thin. It tastes like morning with responsibilities. You manage not to wince, which reads here as grace. Curiosity taps once more. A basket of paper flags, uncut, waiting for the day's knife. Edges will become clouds and serpents in wind. You think of how much of life is cutting carefully and calling it art. A bell clangs faintly from far across water. It is probably not a bell, but it rings like one inside you. You count 3 beats and decide the day has entered its stride. 3 last jokes clock in. 1. Your sandals signed a no sprinting before May's clause. 2. Your cloak flutters like it rehearsed thunder and settled for breeze. 3. Your eyebrows observe the sun with professional skepticism. You stand where you began, almost. Street, canal, courtyard, tasks, looped cleanly, spliced by breath. The city is larger than your understanding and kinder than your excuses. Historians still debate the exact texture of every hour in lives like these. Archaeology sketches, chronicles insist, songs remember what records forget. Your body, after one day, can testify to repetition as a kind of law. You understand the title you carried into the night. You wouldn't last a day here, not the way you arrived. But you have, almost by borrowing rhythm, by lowering your volume, by learning when to be useful. The sun clears a low roof and pours over the courtyard like quiet applause. People don't stop to receive it. They keep working. This is how mornings are accepted. Not as gifts, but as agreements renewed. You breathe, slow and whole, as smoke draws a line into the sky. The line thins and doesn't break. Neither do you. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unhook from the clock. Let your breath ride the small wind crossing water. You're held by a city that knows exactly what to do next. You're smaller than its tasks and safe inside their order. You can rest now, because morning has already promised to continue without you. The lake lifts its quiet face to the light. Reeds tilt toward one another and exchange the news softly. Boats slide from shadow into day, as if waking were a gentle migration. Streets remember the shape of footsteps, rehearse them, and then let them go. Courtyards breathe in with smoke and breathe out steady hands. Somewhere a drum tests 2 notes and decides only one is necessary. You stand at the edge of this motion and feel no demand. You have already paid today's small debts with water, stone, and breath. What remains belongs to stillness, which asks nothing except presence. Let the sounds thin until only the safe ones remain. A lid settling on a pot. Cloth folded once, then twice. The faint, companionable scrape of a broom learning the day. Air moves across your face with quiet authority. Light moves across the wall and does not hurry. Even your thoughts move with wider spaces between them, like birds that trust the sky. If a worry arrives, it arrives smaller, wrapped in linen, labeled for later. If a memory nicks you, it slows, softens, and chooses to be a lesson instead. If a hope appears, it sits down beside you and behaves. Your breath lengthens the way causeways do, straight, certain kind of ankles. Your shoulders lower by degrees you don't have to count. The city continues its grand arithmetic without asking you to keep score. Somewhere, a flower stall opens and laughter notes its first sale. Somewhere, a school curtain lifts and silence becomes attention. Somewhere, temple smoke writes a sentence and stops at the perfect period. Here, there is only the lake and light having a conversation you can overhear. They agree on calm. They agree on continuity. They agree to keep watch while you drift. Sweet dreams.